In this crazy world, it's so hard to unwind. So I'm taking time just for me. Gonna find my peace, let my soul be free. In the quiet moments, that's where I'll find a little room to breathe and leave it all behind. Give me room to breathe, I need some time to heal my heart, to clear my mind. Gonna love myself, yeah, I believe in the power of me. Just give me room to breathe.
Great new day to all my self-care friends and family. Welcome back to another Room to Breathe podcast. I'm your host, Life Coach 614, and I am so happy that you've made space to be here with us today. Now, if this is your first time here or you haven't done so already, be sure to hit that follow button. Subscribe to our channel so that way you're always tapped in when a new episode drops. And again, I encourage everyone to take a moment to head over to our website at theselfcareclub.org, where you can tap into free resources to help nourish your growth and remind you that you are supported every step of the way. Just know that you don't have to do this healing thing alone. We're healing in community, growing one breath, one moment, one day at a time. So today, I encourage you to give yourself permission to pause, to make space for peace, for growth, but most importantly for you. And if anything hits home during this conversation, be sure to drop some green hearts in the chat. That is our community's way of saying I am healing, I am growing, and I am showing up for me. Now, let's get ready to breathe, reflect, and grow together. Family, today we are creating space for a conversation that I believe is going to resonate with a lot of people who may be listening quietly while carrying a lot on their shoulders. Our guest today is someone who understands that resilience is not just a concept, but as something that you have to live through, grow through, and sometimes rebuild yourself through. Courtni Clay, known to many as Coach Court, is a master resilience coach, an Army officer, and a leader who has spent years helping people perform and function under pressure. She has served as a master resilience trainer in the Army and worked in leadership and human resources, supporting individuals and teams in high stress environments where strength and composure are often expected. But the work that she does today isn't rooted only in credentials. It's rooted in a lived experience. Coach Court has walked through seasons that required her to rebuild her life more than once. As a single mother, a leader, a woman navigating divorce, financial pressures, and personal transitions, she knows firsthand what it feels like to look strong on the outside while quietly carrying a lot on the inside. That journey is what led her to become a master resilience coach, where she now helps ambitious and high-achieving women develop the kind of resilience that actually works in real life. Learning how to set boundaries without guilt, communicate clearly and confidently, and to stop abandoning themselves just to keep everybody else comfortable. She is also the author of Gracefully Assertive, The Art of Mastering Assertive Communication Gracefully, where she teaches practical tools that help women use their voice with confidence and clarity. Today, the conversation is going to be centered around a powerful truth that many people are beginning to recognize in their own lives. And that's functioning isn't the same as being okay. And we're going to explore the hidden cost that often comes with always being the strong one. So, family, please help me welcome Coach Court into the Room to Breathe. Hey, girl, hey.
Hey, girl, hey. Thank you so much for the beautiful introduction. It's such a pleasure and an honor to be here with you today.
Thank you so much. It is my honor to have you here today. They don't know what we went through to get here today. So I'm just happy that we finally get to sit down in the Room to Breathe.
That part.
So before we get into your story, I always like to do a check-in with the soul. So I'm going to ask you, how's your spirit doing today?
My spirit is good. It's calm. It's grounded.
Yeah.
It's calm. It's
I love hearing that. I love hearing that. It's so much chaos out there that any moment of grounding that we can get, I take.
And I agree with that too. And I think that it's better than, we always go to, I'm fine or it's good, but no, how does it really feel? Like, how are you really feeling in this moment? So it's good to really take a step back and answer that with real clarity and, intention.
Absolutely. And so I know that every story or every journey has a starting point. And I always like to begin there because I think that it helps us to really understand the heart behind the work that someone's doing today. Yeah. So can you take us back to the season of life that really shaped your understanding of resilience and boundaries?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's funny you asked that. I always thought I was resilient. Like growing up, I could pivot. I could make things happen. Like things would happen to me in life and I could always overcome them. And so for me, I just knew I was resilient. Like, I'm good. I will always figure it out. But it wasn't until my second divorce. And my second divorce is probably what changed everything in my entire life. It challenged my identity. It killed my pride. I was going through financial issues. I was stuck in a state that I could not leave. I had a second child now where I had to deal with the father. It was so many things where on a typical season or occasion, I could just pivot. I could say, you know what? Packing up, I'm moving, I'm finding a new job, I'll be okay. And this was a moment where I couldn't. And so I found myself crumbling. Like I found myself in a state of depression. I was already functioning in the marriage, right? I was already kind of surviving it by functioning and staying busy and doing 1,000 things. But then it got to the point where I finally ended it. And now I can't go anywhere. I can't leave anywhere. I'm losing money. I'm embarrassed. I don't know what to tell people. I'm holding all these secrets that I never was able to share. And now I'm just like, it's finally over and I'm an idiot. So I was really down on myself, right? Because I kind of knew that it was a bad choice to begin with. But then knowing that I can't do anything in the moment. And that's when I realized, to wrap this up, because I know I'm rambling, but I realized that I valued action. I valued output. And as long as I was able to move how I wanted to move, that was resilience. And I didn't realize that really isn't resilience. It's really about, yes, overcoming and adapting, but who are you through that process? Like, where is your mindset going through that process? I was drinking every day. I was depressed. I was angry. I was bitter, and I was going through the emotions, and I felt like I was going insane. And that's when I was like, wow, I'm not really resilient. Like, who am I right now? Because the old me would have been able just to bounce back, but I couldn't. And that's when I learned it's all on the mindset. Everything is about the mindset. So.
Yeah. And I mean, you've worn so many hats, right? Army officer, resilience trainer, leader, coach, mom, like all of these hats that you wear. And so I know that on paper, that kind of life can look incredibly strong and put together. Yeah. But sometimes that story behind the scenes, behind the strength is deeper than what most people see. At what point did you realize that functioning well on the outside didn't necessarily mean that you were okay on the inside?
Yeah, probably that was all during I would say going through the divorce. People saying, "Oh yeah, you're this and you're that," and I'm like, yeah, and I'm like holding back tears, like I don't want to be here anymore. Like I am alone. I am sad. I am bitter. And you guys have no idea what I'm dealing with right now. But I put on this, I'm the strong one, right? Because we always come to this. It's like almost the strong one is a compliment until it becomes this assignment that we have to keep up that look. Like we have to keep performing and showing that we're okay, we're successful, we're pretty, we're smiling, everything's fine. And inside, you hate every aspect of your life.
Yeah.
Every part of it. So then you're over functioning, you're overthinking, over giving, and then you resent it. And that's exactly what I went through. I resented everything. I resented being there, and I resented the marriage. I resented I was in it moving to Arizona. I was in it so many things, and I was so busy being mad and bitter and angry. I couldn't see outside of it.
Yeah. And I think that a lot of women, listening can relate to that, to just the idea of being the strong one or the dependable one, the one that holds everything together for everyone else. And I think we all reach that point when we start recognizing the hidden cost of always being the strong one.
Yeah.
And when I think about resilience, people hear the word resilience all the time, but I think that so many of us were taught that resilience just meant pushing through no matter what. It's like, oh, you'll be okay.
Yeah.
Oh, this is fine. Oh, you'll bounce back. You've always been the strong one, From your perspective,
Yeah.
What is the difference between true resilience and simply surviving or staying in survival mode?
That's a good question. I would say people think of resilience as you kind of said, overcoming, adapting, like the function of it all, right? Like, what are you doing? What can you do? The output. But resilience it's a state of being, right? It's who you are during the process. What are you putting into perspective? How are you changing your mindset? How are you finding, I don't want to say the positive side, but how are you looking at this in a way that can benefit you? Are you letting go of things that you can't control and focusing on things that you can control? Are you maintaining your composure? It's more mental, right, than just doing. There, of course, you want to have, and I think that's the thing too. Like, it's about doing, but you got to have the right mindset to take the right actions. So if you're taking action, but it's based off you being mad, bitter, angry, trying to control the situation, all these things, the right action will be in place to get you to where you really need to be. And you'll be operating in chaos, which is what I was doing for like 4 years, for years. And sometimes it worked out, right? But my mindset along the way wasn't preparing me for the challenges that I was going to face up ahead.
Yeah. And I think, the tricky part when someone is high functioning, the world assumes that everything is fine. And so I'm curious, what are some quiet signs that someone, might be functioning, but not actually okay?
Ew. It's like they almost, we tell ourselves things like, for example, someone that's functioning might say, I handled it, versus being okay with saying, I didn't have to handle it alone. I asked for help. I collaborated, like, this was good. Or even saying things like, in response to, how was your day? And you say, oh, it's fine. But being well is actually telling the truth on how you're feeling, taking a step back and really honoring, how am I feeling? And honoring that versus just saying, I'm fine, I'm good. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, because we're so quick to be so automatic in how we show up that we forget to be really authentic in who we are. I would say also the little things like showing up for everyone and then taking pride in it. Like, oh, I always show up for everyone. But being well is, I showed up for myself first, and then I have enough to give to everyone else, and being good with that. So it's things like that. Like, it's the things that we tell ourselves all the time that are quietly sabotaging our resilience and mental strength.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think we have to start being honest with ourselves. I know I was the queen of, I'm fine, I'm good, I got it, don't worry about it, I'll be okay. Meanwhile, I'm crying on the kitchen floor. It's not okay, And once someone starts realizing that they're exhausted or stretched too thin, I think boundaries suddenly become like an important part of the conversation. Because a lot of times we have boundaries, we don't enforce them, or we don't have them at all. We don't even know what boundaries mean. Yeah. Why do you think that boundaries feel so difficult for women who are used to carrying, a lot of responsibility?
I think we are so used to being the strong one. I think, I think a big one, that too, but it's like we almost feel like if we don't do it, who will? And we put that on ourselves.
Yeah.
Like we feel like we have to be the one always on point. And then it's I think also the people pleasing as well. We want everyone to like us, love us, be satisfied with what we have to offer. So we go above and beyond. I would say those are probably the major things. I think also how, you know, how we grew up. Were you taught to, you know, always do what you're told, right? And not really speak your truth. Like, how were you raised? Like that has, you know, a big part in it as well. I know a lot of people that always felt like they needed to please their as an adult as well. And that's how they tried to win that approval.
And you're right. You know, there's some type of a conditioning sometimes that goes into it. And, you know, it's like our parents before us, that's how they were taught. So then that's how they teach us to keep going and keep moving. And, you know, it doesn't help. We watch all of this quote unquote reality TV. So we get this idea that this is what we're supposed to be doing. And I'm supposed to have it all and do it all. And I'm not really, you know? And so, yeah, for many people, that pattern of overgiving has been there for years. You know, was there a moment in your journey when you realized that you had been abandoning yourself just to keep things peaceful for everybody else?
I would say it came more, so for me personally, it was about using my voice and just saying what I needed to say. Like at times, I think I was more so either the person that, like I was on like a seesaw at times where I would shrink, where I wouldn't say anything just because I didn't want to get in an argument. I didn't feel like going back and forth, all these things. And I did it more so out of not wanting to get into conflict. Whereas now I do it because it's more like, I'm not going to argue with you, but I'm going to be very clear on what my boundaries are, what my expectations are, and how we can find a win-win. So for me, it's more so, how can we make this work together? So I would say, yeah, more so my voice was a thing. And then it got to a point where when I was younger, I would snap. Like a lot of my friends would say my words cut deep. And so I've been very intentional about trying to work on that. So I was on a seesaw with my voice. So that was probably the biggest thing.
Yeah, I definitely resonate with that, because either I would speak my mind and hold nothing back, or I would remain silent. Yeah. And you're like, what's wrong with her? You know, they're like, she's not talking. What's wrong? Right. You know, and I think that something else that comes up a lot in these healing conversations is the idea that strength means staying quiet or having to handle things by yourself. And I think for Black women, you know, over the years, we've had to step up. You know, when you think of like single mothers and things like that, we've had no choice kind of but to step up and to be all. You know, and then if you factor in people who may have, you know, been raised by a single parent or have, you know, an absent parent, things like that, you then say, I'm going to do better. I'm going to be better. So now it's like we put all of these labels and expectations on ourselves to have to handle everything by ourselves. And if you don't, you're going to look weak. You know, it's like society makes you feel bad for just being human these days. How did you personally learn that strength doesn't have to mean suffering in silence?
And so that's exactly how I grew up. I grew up with the single mother, and also I'm the oldest of 4 girls. So everything was always on me. I had to be the strong one. I had to handle everything. And then also I was in this kind of thought process of, and I don't want my life to be like this. So I have to make it. There is no choice. Failure is not an option. How can I make things happen? That's kind of what always set me on the, like, if plan A don't work, plan B is going to work. So I am constantly putting out, it's the output that's going on. And that divorce was the catalyst for how I changed my mindset, because at that time when I was married, I was hiding a lot of things, covering up a lot of things. I didn't talk about a lot of things. And even going through the divorce, I think my response was more anger and bitter than, okay, how am I, going to overcome this? How am I going to know that everything's going to be okay? Like, where's my mindset? My mindset was on kill, kill, kill. Not really kill, but, beat him in the divorce and, do all these things and try to get through it, where it was like, okay, I don't have to do, like, how can we work together to get to the common goal? Like, I need to stop being angry. Like, what is the main, I think we as people take everything so personal and get so stuck on that. And then we want to fight the feeling of being mistreated or abused or talked down about or whatever, instead of like, okay, you know what? How can I move beyond this in a way that either, we're working together or we're cordial? I don't have to push, but how can I work through this in a way that makes sense, where I'm composed, where I'm kind? Because it's kind of like what you put out is what you'll get back. So who am I in this moment? How am I showing up? And that's kind of what I would go, like, once I realized what I needed to do was like, okay, how am I showing up in this moment? Because what I want at the end of the day, how do I need to show up now to get that? It's not going to be by being angry, by being bitter, by winning a divorce case, by cussing each other out every time we see each other, by being mad about what happened 5 years ago and then pinning that to how I grew up in life. Like, that's not going to help me get to her. How can I be her?
Yeah. And again, that all goes back to the communication, first the communication, the language that we speak to ourselves, us opening up and being honest with ourselves about what it is that we want, what it is that we're no longer going to tolerate, or who it is we're trying to evolve into. Like you said, trying to make your present align with your future of what you want. And I know that you actually teach a lot about communication through your book, Gracefully Assertive. And I love that phrase because it feels so powerful, but grounded. What does graceful assertiveness actually look like when someone is trying to express their needs without guilt or aggression?
I always, my framework for the book is based on 4 C's, right? So confidence, to admit when you're not okay. So either what is or is not okay. Clarity, to name what needs to change. Connection, to let people in. Because I feel like when we're talking to people and our response, we should always be asking ourselves a question. Am I speaking to build a relationship or break it? So connection, to let people in. And then composure, which is where we want to stop reacting and start choosing.
But and even in just thinking that, if we're being honest, I think that one of the things that constantly shows up for people is guilt, right? I think that guilt shows up quickly when people start protecting their peace. And so anytime you decide, I'm on this journey, or I'm making the decision to put me first for once, there's this guilt that shows up, be it, if you're a mom and now you have this mom guilt because you feel like you're supposed to be doing something for the kids or your partner or your job, whatever it is, right? What would you say to someone who knows that they need to set stronger boundaries and, put themselves first, but they feel guilty for disappointing others?
I think I always ask the question of, if you keep allowing others to deplete you, right? If you keep giving, and you're not getting anything back, then how are you going to continue to give to them in the future? Like, how is that going to work? I just asked that question. They're like, yeah, but I'm like, but really, how is that going to work? How did that work out for anyone else that you know of that's been doing the same thing? How did that work out for them? And do you want that to be your same destiny?
Yeah.
And half the time it's no. I know for me, it was a no. When I saw how my mom would output, and she would do all these things and say it was in the name of her children. And it's like, but we grow up, and then what happens? You gave nothing to yourself at all during those years. There's a way, there's a thing called balance where you can give to yourself and give to others as well, but you always have to be pouring. It's give and take.
Yeah.
And you need to fill your cup as well.
Absolutely. I had to learn that the hard way because I was constantly pouring and refilling everybody's cups and then wondering why I'm in, the ICU getting a lifeline drip because I'm dehydrated, and I teach people all the time. Yeah, you're constantly filling your cup, but you have a hole in your cup and you're just giving it out to everybody. You have to understand, like you have to first and foremost tend to the cup. Let's plug the hole. And then fill the cup up and understand that you still get to be of service to so many people by what's overflowing from the cup. But what goes inside that cup is yours,
and service. Absolutely.
Yeah. And I know another theme that we touched on, in our earlier conversation was the impact of mindset and the language that we use with ourselves. And I don't know how many times I have this conversation with people because I'm like, girl, if I talk to me the way you talk to you, I would never get anything done either. Because like some people's mouth is just absolutely disrespectful with how they talk to themselves.
Yeah. I'm an idiot. I'm so stupid. Yeah.
It's like, and we say it all the time, even when people say like, oh, I'm broke, things like that. And I'm like, well, that's why you ain't never got no money, sis, because you done already claimed it and the universe gave you just that, Yeah,
absolutely.
How did changing your internal dialogue change the way you navigated life and leadership?
Good question. So again, I would say going back to the divorce, because that was the catalyst for the death of how I used to think and the birth of how I began to think. And going through those times, I remember talking to myself saying, you're so stupid. This is your second divorce. You're like gonna end up alone, just like other people in your family. Like I would say all these things to myself. And it takes me back to like how I talk so bad to myself. But becoming very intentional, right? And I think being aware first, like you really have to become aware that you do that. And then when you do it, then you learn how to catch yourself. And then when you learn how to catch yourself, you learn how to replace it with something else. And then the more you do it, the easier it becomes, the more natural it becomes. And then you find yourself not saying those hurtful things to you as often as you once may have. Because I mean, I grew up in a house like that. Like we were always very negative all the time. We would call each other names, call ourselves names. Like that was just how it was. And so it's funny because I hear one of my sisters in particular, like I would hear her and her kids and how they would call other people names. And in my head, I'll be like, that's exactly how we grew up. And and my son, he'd be like, Mom, did you hear that? I'm like, yeah. I'm like, that's why we don't talk like that at home. Like, we're not gonna have these name calling, all those things. But you can break generational cycles and curses, but you have to become very aware first and then choose to do something about it.
Absolutely. And one of the things for me when I had to kind of shift the language, because it doesn't happen overnight. Like I try to tell people, you're going to mess up. You're human. You've, established this pattern of bad behavior. So it takes time, to shift that. It's like weight loss and building your credit. It takes time. It's easy to destroy it, but it takes time to get it back on track, But I had to learn to use the word but. So if I would say something like, oh, I'm so stupid. And then I would be like, oh, I just did it again. Then I would say, but I'm human and I'm learning. So like I would force myself to come back and say something better because we know that the word but erases everything that came before it. Mm-hmm. And so I tell people and I'm like, listen, you have to understand the power of but, you know, so when you say something negative to yourself, as soon as you catch yourself, you're like, but I'm working, I'm a work in progress, or I'm doing my best, or I'll get it right next time, things like that. Yeah. And then eventually you will lose the part before but, and then all of a sudden when you mess up, you're like, all right, I still got some work to do. I'm still a work in progress, and it gets better. Yeah.
No, I agree. It all goes back to being aware and then being and becoming very intentional. And I feel like that's what like a lot of people miss is the intention part, knowing that's not going to come easy. But you have to be very intentional about when it happens, you catch it, and then you choose a better, you add the but or whatever you choose to add after that, and you give a better, you reframe that thought.
Absolutely. And I know that faith has also been a part of both of our journeys, especially during seasons that have stretched us. How
Mhm.
has your faith helped you to stay grounded when resilience was being tested?
I would always think back to God has got me through some things in life. So he's not done with me yet. Like if I could get through, like when I really sit down and think about my life and all the things that happened as a child up until now and where I'm at now, I know that I have a purpose and he's getting me to that purpose, and everything that I've had to go through, the twist and the turn, has molded me into the woman that I am now. And even now I know he's not done, but for me to get here to where I'm at, I never thought I would be an author. Never. It was never in my mind. I hated speaking in public. It's still not my favorite now, but I know that what is uncomfortable to you mean there's room to grow in it for a reason. So I put myself out there on purpose to
Yeah.
grow, to get better in this. But just knowing that there's a purpose over your life, and it's up to you to walk in God's will. And, or I'm sorry, well, seek his will and then walk in it.
Yeah. I 100% agree. And, for me, I always think, when I look at my life and how far I've come, I remind myself that I have 100% survived everything that was sent to destroy me. And so, as long as I'm still here, as long as I'm still breathing, then there's still work for me to do. And,
Absolutely.
I may not get it all right. I don't honestly strive to get it perfect. I just show up and I do my best. Right. And then I remind myself that my best is good enough, despite
Yeah.
what society tries to tell me, what the next mom over here is doing. It doesn't really matter. My best is good enough. And I'm like,
Yeah.
it is what it is.
And I think people like, I think I'm in this space now where I'm like, I'm just gonna do it and I'm gonna learn from whatever it is. But I refuse to be on my deathbed knowing that I could have done X, Y, and Z, but I didn't do it because I was scared or I was uncomfortable and I had all the what ifs. And that's why, like, I always tell like my clients, like, I don't say what's the worst that can happen. I say what's the best that can happen, and that's it.
Exactly.
What's the best that can happen?
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think a lot of times we have that fear of success. A lot of people don't suffer from the fear of failing because
Yeah,
honestly, we know what that feels like.
yeah,
Many of us don't know what the success looks like. And I myself had that fear of success. And
yeah,
then it took somebody breaking down fear as being that false evidence appearing real. And
yeah,
that was like a light bulb for me. And I was like, wait, what? What did you say?
yeah,
you
yeah,
know? And it was like a game changer. And I remember my dad saying, it's okay. You can do hard things. You feel the fear and you do it anyway. And I'm like, but
yeah,
what if I fall? He was like, but what if you don't?
yeah,
You've been down before. You know what it means to get back up. So, don't
yeah,
have that fear of success. And I always have to kind of go back to that.
yeah,
And I'm thankful and grateful for having, my father to be able to pour into me those things. And even though I didn't get the lessons then,
yeah.
later I'm like, oh, that's what he meant.
That's what I'm talking about.
Exactly. You're like, I get it. Thanks.
Yeah, makes sense.
Um, So when we look back at earlier chapters of our lives, sometimes our definition of strength changes over the
Mhm.
years. What does healthy resilience look like in your life now compared to what you believed resilience to mean years ago?
Healthy resilience now is knowing that everything's going to work out for me despite what I see in front of me. It's going to be okay. And focusing more so on what I can control and how I show up versus me back then was what can I do? What can I do? What can I do? What can I do? How can I dodge this bullet? How can I, you know, jump over mountains and crawl under rocks? Like, it was all on output. Everything was based on performance. For me, performing and being perfect. But now it's like, I'm just showing up as me, and I'm being the best I can be, and I'm being authentic, and what's for me will be for me, and that's it. So it's just more calm. I feel like I am a lot more at peace with life itself, and I'm focused on the things that I can control, and I let go of a lot of things that I can't control.
Yeah, it's purpose over performance for me.
Yeah.
And understanding that purpose will never leave you depleted or feeling exhausted. Like, it's not going to drain you when you're walking in your purpose. But if you're walking out of performance, you're always going to feel tired. It's like you're going to suffer from that rest that sleep can't fulfill.
Yeah.
And I don't think that a lot of people, I think people say they're doing something with a purpose, but not realizing the actual purpose in what they're doing. And that's why people are always so tired and, they're angry. And I'm like, if you're walking in your purpose, you're not mad about it. You're not angry about it. You get it. If you're going to be up late today, or, if you're not going to have enough rest here. Yeah. It's like a method to your madness.
Yeah. I feel like there's like a high and a sense of accomplishment in what you're doing.
Yeah.
Like, this feels right. I feel good about this. Not that this is a perfect product, but my spirit feels like I did what I was supposed to do.
Absolutely. Yeah, I absolutely agree. I was just talking about that earlier with somebody, and I was just saying how I did this challenge on Chat GPT one day, and it said a roast me challenge. And you're supposed to ask Chat GPT to roast you and hold nothing back. And so I did that. And when I say the Chat GPT read me to filth, but it was funny. Okay. It was like really funny, because it's like, you're out here creating this, doing that, doing this, all before everybody else has had a cup of coffee. And I had to laugh, but I'm not tired. I'm like, and it makes sense to me. But what it pointed out to me was that, on the outside, people say you're doing too much. But from the inside, when you're walking in purpose, when God gave you that vision, it didn't seem like too much for you. And that God's not going to put too much on you. So for everybody else, it's too much because that's not their assignment, And so I don't wake up anymore wanting to prove why I do what I do. I choose purpose over pressure. And I tell people all the time, God gave you the vision. He didn't send it to the group chat. He didn't tell you to worry about the likes and the views. So if God say go, it's time for you to get up and move. You got to get going, because that's what he's putting on you to do, I
like that. God didn't send it to the group chat.
Exactly. That was a private download. That if he wanted them to know, he would have told them.
That was a DM. That was straight DM.
Exactly. A direct download. Okay. You didn't even have to push a button. You just woke up and he said, "This is what you're going to do today." You're like, "Okay, God, I see what you did right there."
I like that.
Yeah. So I do want to kind of back up just a little bit and give you an opportunity to talk about the book. What can readers expect from the book? And what do you hope that they take from it?
I hope take from this, and even men or women. I've actually had men read my book as well, which was great, because I feel like anyone can learn something from it. But one of the key things is that you don't have to raise your voice to raise your value. A lot of people think, you have to match energy or get louder. And there's just so much strength in showing up confident, clear, composed. We don't have to over-explain. We don't have to get loud. We don't have to shrink, but we can show up in a way where we're able to clearly and concisely get our point across and build connection at the same time.
Absolutely. I always tell people, I don't argue with what I already know. Like
Yeah.
I am at this grown age, you know, I am done going back and forth with people. I'm not going to argue with you.
Yeah.
You're right. I'm right. I'm wrong. You're right. I don't care at this point because I'm just not going to sit here and do the back and forth.
Yeah.
Because honestly, it gets us nowhere, especially if that person is committed to the cause. You know, if that's what they feel, there's nothing that you can say or do that's going to make them feel different. So,
Right.
Yeah.
Your job is to be clear on what you want and need.
Mhm.
Have the confidence to say it, even if it's uncomfortable, and then do it in a way that is grounded and regulated. And that's it. And if if that's all you can give and they're still not with it, you did what you were supposed to do.
Exactly. I can sleep at night. That's all that matters. Like a baby in the bed, comfy.
I did my part and I did it respectfully. I did it kind. I was clear. Like, what? There isn't anything else for me to do.
Yeah.
So I'm excited about this book. I feel like it gives women a way to use their voice in a way that shows that they can speak with power and lead with grace. They don't have to match the male masculinity in the boardroom, or, however that may show up. Like, you can still be who you are, calm, cool, collected.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I always want listeners to leave with something practical that they can apply right away after the podcast. So for women who are listening to this right now, who feel exhausted, but they keep showing up for everybody else, what is one small step that she can take this week to start honoring herself again?
I would say do a capacity check. I want you, so like, before you say yes to anything, I want you to ask yourself, do I actually have capacity for this? Or am I afraid to disappoint someone? And if the answer is I'm afraid to disappoint someone, then you need to say no.
Yeah.
I would say that. Maybe some phrases I like that are like calm but direct at the same time. I don't have the capacity for that right now. Or, girl, I'm gonna protect my peace. I'm gonna protect my time on this one. Or I'm choosing rest. I don't need to earn it. Something like that.
Yeah. And capacity is my word, girl. Okay. Like, I tell people, and I'm like, girl, do you drink coffee or tea? Most people say one or the other. And I'm like, every time you get ready to make that coffee or tea, when you open that cabinet, you choose what size cup you want. So I know you know a thing or two about capacity. Yes. Do you want a small cup? Or do you want a tall, a venti, a grind? What do you want? And I start every day determining what capacity I have for everyone else.
Yes.
And, some days I might want a venti or a Trenta, who knows, Yes. But then other days I'm like, I ain't even sipping none of that today. Y'all gonna have to figure that out because I don't have the capacity for it. And it's okay.
Yeah. And I think, it's good to train yourself to say, like, this is where we get caught up, because we want to say yes or say this so fast. So it's like, train yourself to say, let me think about that and get back to you. Just start with that. Let's start with that opening phrase. Let me think about that and get back to you. Because then when you do that then gives you time to ask yourself, do I actually have capacity for this? Or am I just afraid to disappoint someone? And then you have your phrase to say once you determine that. So
absolutely. Yeah, I think pressing pause on the situation is a big help, because even if nothing else, during that pause, you can get your words together. You have the time to check your calendar or to check in with yourself to say, do I want to do this? Sometimes it's not about if you have the time to do it. It's, do I want to do it? Because if I say, if somebody calls me and they say, hey girl, what you doing? And I say nothing. And then you're like, oh, can you watch the kids?
Yeah.
No, baby, I said I was doing nothing.
And I want that to continue to do nothing.
Sorry, you misunderstood. This is a Netflix and heel for me. Like, I don't want to watch your kids.
You know what? And that's where capacity comes in. Because it's not about time. It's about capacity. That's all. I like the word capacity too, because it's like, I may have the time, but I don't have the capacity.
Right. Yeah. It's bigger than having the time or the ability. Because if I don't have the time, the ability, or the desire, I don't have the capacity. If all three of those things don't align, I decline.
I like
I'm like, yeah, I'm like, I just, I can't. I no longer, I don't know, like, I'm constantly like, I can't. Like, I don't want to. I can't. Yeah. So before we close, I do want to leave space for just one final reflection. What message would you like to leave anyone who has spent years being the strong one? And I know that's kind of similar to the last question, but like specifically speaking to the strong ladies out there, the ones who are carrying everything. What's one final message that you would leave?
I would ask, or I would have you think about where's that going to get you in the long run? How is this strength going to carry you to your next level of life and how you show up for others?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Because if you keep doing that, it'll run out. And what are you going to do then?
Yeah. That's the good one. I would have just said, girl, just stop. Just stop. Like, just take it from me. Just stop. Like, duh.
Yeah, I feel like we have to, like, it's a bigger picture. And if we get out of our head and our feelings, our emotions, like, where are we trying to go in life? And if I keep operating like this, knowing how I feel, like, am I ever going to get there? Am I ever going to get to her?
Yeah.
Am I going to get to her by doing this right now? So
yeah. And it's also important too to like kind of watch what you're intaking. Like, you know how we're always watching what we eat and things like that, but people don't pay attention to the things that you're watching, what you're listening to, the company that you keep. You know, like I said, at this big age, we have to do better at choosing our circles, you know, the communities that we sit in, what we entertain, because that will keep you trapped. So you know, most of the time, if you're the strong one, it's because you got a lot of people leeching on to you. And so you need to step aside and be like, hold on, I'm surrounded by takers, you know? And so that's why I'm always like, girl, just stop it all for a moment, you know?
Yeah. And I think also it's like, who do we look up to? Like, growing up in a single home, right? You see their mom or your mother being the strong one, being this person. So then you take on those things, not knowing that this is preventing you from being, again, her, right? But we're taking on this identity that we grew up with because it feels normal. It's what we're used to, is what we saw, and is what we became at the same time. So
yeah. Now, before we close, I do just want to make sure that people know how they can stay connected with you and continue learning from the work that you're doing. So for anyone who's listening today, who's, you know, this conversation resonated with them, who may have realized that they're functioning but not truly okay, where can they find you?
You can find me on Instagram at Coach Court83, and TikTok is Coach Courtni.
Yeah.
Okay, I believe it's Coach Courtni. I couldn't pull that one up.
Yeah.
And I'm also on LinkedIn, Clay83.
Family, I'll be sure to link everything in the description, so that way you guys have no excuse not to connect with Courtni. And sis, I really just want to take an opportunity to thank you again for showing up in this space with honesty and heart. I honestly believe that conversations like this matter because so many people are quietly carrying more than they allow the world to see. We're so busy, you know, serving this Instagram reel energy. So I think that the way that you spoke about resilience and boundaries and just learning to protect your peace is something that I know is going to help a lot of people feel seen and heard. So thank you for trusting this space with your story, you know, and part of your testimony. I truly appreciate the wisdom and the practical tools that you brought into the room today.
Thank you so much. It was such an honor being here. I can't wait to chat with you again.
Yes, girl. Thank you. I tell people, once you're in the Room to Breathe, you are family. We are locked in. Okay, girl. So ain't no switching up. Come back anytime.
We're locked in. Yes.
Yes. We are locked in. And to everyone listening, I hope that this conversation reminded you of something important. Just because you're getting through the day, just because you're showing up for everyone else, or just because you're functioning, it doesn't mean that you have to keep carrying everything alone. Sometimes the most powerful step in healing is simply acknowledging the truth of where you are and giving yourself permission to simply breathe. You can always continue the discussion with our community over at the Room2Breathe Project, powered by school. You can access the community via our website at selfcareclub.org, where we are building spaces for people who are committed to healing, growing, and learning how to care for themselves in deeper ways. And if this episode encouraged you, please do us a favor. Share this out with someone who may need a little reminder that strength doesn't have to mean silence. As always, I want to leave you all with a little love and light. I am here to encourage you to keep breathing through the highs, the lows, and every moment in between. I want you to keep choosing peace, even if it feels out of reach. And know that here at the Self-Care Club, you will always be seen, valued, and supported. So don't be afraid to take up space, speak your truth, and make a little room for you to breathe. I love each and every one of you to life. And I am praying that your day is not just amazing, but aligned, intentional, and yes, on purpose, filled with purpose. This has been another Room to Breathe podcast, and I look forward to connecting with you all again soon. Thank you.
Me, I found my room to